Flight boss, bitch. For sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And we're going to get into this void. Now, what is the void? The void. Now, for the most part, I know you probably heard a lot of science, a lot of Gnostic texts or religious forms of things of that nature, or scientific terms of the void. So I know you got a lot of information on what you think the void is, right? But y'all know me, coming from the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional world, and I'm not trying to be different just for the sake of being different. I'm just actually trying to give you the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension aspect of things. So for the most part, when I say shit like this, there is no void, and a void don't exist. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. Because for the most part, there is no void. There is only a such thing as moving into a space you haven't been in before. And you are creating as you go. Now, before I break all that down, let's talk about this void for a second. The term you have learned and the scientific ways of interpreting it, right? So now look, once you get that imagination and that concept in your mind of this void that have been created by men and women, right? Then now that is an actual creation. That is an actual realm. That is an actual attribute that you can attach to your world. So if you're dealing with a situation that you have any void in your life, it's because of what you've been taught. And then you have been taught to think that this thing is real. So when you actually develop voids in your life, aka you feel like you're always missing something, you always feel like you don't have something, that's when it starts to affect you in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. When you start to feel like you don't have something down here, or you start to feel like you're not capable of something, or someone else have something more than you have, then you have agreed to the terms and conditions of the void program, and you have signed that contract. And I'm here as your esoteric lawyer to get you up out of that shit, so you can stop going to court in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, getting locked up by the Galactic Federation of Light, and keep being judged by these motherfucking all these fucking beings, reptilians and greys and all these shits that judge you, and they don't never even judge themselves. So for the most part, stop giving them power so they can obtain their position. You know what I'm saying? And that's what this video is going to be the fuck about, because I care about your spirit. So for the most part, now that you rocking with me, let's get into this motherfucking shit. There is no such thing as a void. Why is that? Because things is being created on impact. Things is being created on instant as you go. You know what I'm saying? Especially based upon the initial awareness of a being. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you have to look at it like this. You're in the 3D dimension right now. So you were created after the fact. You damn near got a parent. You got parents that have parents that have parents. And you're in a realm. So for the most part, you're already in a space that have already been created. So, but how you can kind of understand this to your small, mini, macro to micro version of you, right? When you're going through a new experience, you're just going along, right? When you go through a new experience, you don't know how to truly feel, and you don't know how to truly think. So you basically create on impact. You create on instant. You create based upon the experience. So take that back and take that same concept back to the initial awareness of things, right? When we talk about a void, this is nothing more, nothing less, but a state of being moving in a space it hasn't been in before. And that space it moved in, it created that space. So you create your direction. You create your space. You create what you're going to. Just like you sit back and create your imagination, right? That's the same way you have to look at it like this. In the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension realm, that's you moving into another space you haven't been in before. But that space you moved into, you created that space. You see what I'm saying? Now, since you're in the 3rd dimension right now, these spaces have already been created by beings that was here before you. And you know that. This is why you got ancestors and shit like that. So even take it a step further to the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. The ancestors. So for the most part, these spaces that you're moving through already have already been created. So now that you know that, right, you have to look at it like this. Your spirit moves like water in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. Everything moves like frequency vibration waves. You see what I'm saying? So think about it like this. This is how the planets is rotating and everything. So when you're in one space, right, then you're going to perceive an energy, or you're going to perceive a location or a space, or aka what you want to quote unquote call a void, but it's not a void. It's just an area you haven't been in yet. Then you're going to move in that space. And then once you get into that space, Then you go into another space. Then this creates rotation, and this is where the expansion contraction come from. And then depending on how many experiences you have, this is how long your stretch of space go into. So look at it like a zero, right? And then you start to expand and contract, right? But look at it like a stretch in a wave too, right? And you're going into a space. So you go into this space, then you need more of this space. Then boom, you go back in this space, then you ain't got no more of that space. Then boom. Look how water moves. Water moves in all the spaces is not in. So you never see a void in water. This is why water looks like whatever y'all trying to call a void. You see what I'm saying? So now you go to school, or they try to teach you, when you dive too much into your emotions, right? This what makes you super distant. But you put yourself in a void based upon what you think a void is. And since water look like void, anybody who's too emotionally into their own distress or into their own emotions and feelings and things of that nature, they become separate from the world, right? They become in their own void. They soak in their own water. They become emotional wrecks. So, you know what I'm saying? Y'all, I'm trying to get y'all out of this shit in the lightest form. So when we talk about it, you moving it, it's like you moving into space, then you move into the other. So look, in the third dimension realm, look at it like this, right? Say you get into a state of being, and once you get familiar with that state of being, what happens? You want something new, right? Then you get that. Then once you get that, now you want something new. And then you start to realize a pattern. You start to realize whatever you search and try to get, once you get it, you truly don't be satisfied. So this is putting you into a realm of reality. Now that's from a third dimensional aspect. Now me as Archangel Uriel, let me tell you what's actually going on in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional aspect. In the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional realm, what's happening is you're just moving into a space you haven't been in. So once you moved into a space, you didn't get familiar with that space. And familiarity creates routine, and routine creates being tired of, or you know what I'm saying, wanting something new to a certain degree. So for the most part, and then if you're not aware of that self, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, it's going to start playing out as you being frustrated in the third dimension. So you need to understand this is an energy signature on its own. You see what I'm saying? This is something that your spirit is doing on its own. So once you get attached to things in the third dimension, right? Once you get attached to certain things in the third dimension, you're going to start to look at these things as not that. So when it's time to move into another space that you haven't been in before, in the third dimension, the space that you in, the person, place, or thing, the illusion, the light that's involved in it, it may look like something that you're not supposed to move away from at the time. So this is why, see, it's an energy signature on its own. This is why it's something that you can't help. Even when you're in relationships, you can't help but to get tired of being around. Anytime you're around a person 24/7, your spirit already is going to be frustrated with each other. So it's going to play out in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension realm, and then slowly but shortly it's going to start participating in the third dimensional realm. Then y'all going to start playing tit for tat, start nagging each other in certain ways, start being annoyed by little things. You see what I'm saying? Then y'all gonna, then slowly but shortly the relationship is gonna end, and then you're gonna once you're away from that person for a while, you're gonna sit back and realize, like, damn, I miss that person. Why I ain't feel like that? You know what? Because see, your spirit did that. You was just lost into the illusion down here. But see, it's something going on in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension that's totally separate than what's going on in the third dimension, right? But it's actually playing out in the third dimension because the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension is before the third dimension. So things take place there before it takes place in the third dimension. Things there is more in its original state than it is here. So a lot of times it might be lack of words, lack of ways for me explaining it. So it sounds like I'm in my own world. But if you truly try to understand what I'm saying, you're gonna realize it actually make more sense than everything in the third dimension. And once you get a handle on that, you start controlling the third dimension. You start controlling the third dimension from the fourth dimension. So you need to understand that it's moving like you're moving in places that you haven't moved in before. And since you're in a realm right now where there's a bunch of spaces that have been here before you, there's billions and trillions of spaces to move into. There's billions and trillions of motherfucking state of beings to be in as a spirit. So it's almost to the point that you can get lost here. Because in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, once you move into one space, There's millions of different spaces you can move into that in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension you will perceive as a space you didn't move into before. There's millions of different spaces to move in that's offsprings of the space that you just moved into. You see what I'm saying? Now take this from natural beings who created this space before you got here, right? It was at an initial time where they was just creating as they go. It wasn't many spaces to choose from because you're creating the space as you go. So, for example, when you move into another space that have already been created, you create your own space in that space. This is why you have your space, your own space in your job. When someone's smothering you too much in you start to get frustrated and stuff, you're like, man, I need some room. I need some space. They ain't got to be physically touching you, but they could probably be talking too much. They could probably be breathing down your neck. They could probably just be in your area too much. You see what I'm saying? And to the point you'd be like, damn, I need some space. AKA, you need to be away from that person's energy for a while. You know what I'm saying? Quote unquote, you can just be telling them in your mind to shut the fuck up for a second. So they still close to you, but by them shutting up, they mind leave from the connection of your mind in the astral realm. Therefore, y'all in two different spaces now. You're able to be in your own world while they're in their own world, and y'all both side by side working y'all job together. You see what I'm saying? Like, the shit go motherfucking deep. I'm trying to tell y'all. But I have to keep bringing it to three-dimensional realms for y'all could not be like, oh, he just getting high. Nah, this shit is real. It is ways to explain it in 3D. It's just I have to start talking a little bit, and then I can catch it, and then I can be like, all right, that's a way I can bring it to the 3D for them. You know what I'm saying? So, for the most part, it's like, when you talk about the initial beings who was doing this, they was initially creating this space. There was a bunch of earthly-like stars doing this here like that. But as far as you now, you create your own space within a space. So this is how you know, this let you know in a mini version, the mini version of you creating as you go. You see what I'm saying? So look at this like this. In the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional realm, there's trillions of billions of spaces and state of beings to go through. In a third dimension, it will play out as a bunch of emotional states to be in, or a bunch of mental concepts to go through, or a bunch of thought process to be in. Thought processes to go in. You know what I'm saying? Thought process. So that's how it will play out in the third dimension. So for the most part, you'll start to have an idea and a feeling about it, right? You'll catch it, right? Then once you catch that from whoever you caught that from, because you was vibrating on that frequency, boom, you start to assess your own thought about that, or your own feeling about that, dude, then that becomes yours that you emit into the universe. Right? Now, once you develop that in that frequency vibration, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, that's you in a certain wave. That's you in a certain space. That's you in a certain state of being. But you already there. Now you want to add on and move somewhere else. Now you can add an idea, add a feeling and emotion, right? Or jump into another frequency vibration. See, you think you add another thought or feeling in the third dimensional realm, but really in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional realm, you're moving your state of being, you're moving your spirit in another space and location. Therefore, you're able to catch other thoughts and other feelings from others in that frequency vibration, right? So once you catch them, boom, you're able to catch them, then assess your own thought and imagination of what you just caught, then boom, that becomes yours. So now you was vibrating in another frequency vibration, in another location, aka you moved into another state of being. You see what I'm saying? Then once you're there, you want to move into another one. And then in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, it looked like you're doing this. And then you as a spirit moving in that frequency vibration wave that's doing this, you as a spirit, as your space moving through it, you're trying to survive through that astral travel, through that frequency wave, right? But you moving in that space, you is your zero, right? So you being a zero, you can look at 1, 2, 3 on that side, the negative, minus 1, 2, 3, 4, negative, positive on that side, and you creating your own frequency vibration through that, moving through that. And that will be from your zero, expansion, contraction, as you being a spirit, developing experiences. Your expansion and contraction is going through the negative and positive, and then based upon your expansion and contraction, that's you traveling through the astral realm, you going into currents, you going into rotations with your own expansion and contraction, and then you going into a higher expansion and contraction, but to you in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional realm, it would look like a frequency vibration wave. But that's just a greater spiritual being, expansion and contraction greater than you, and you to sustain yourself within their realm, you traveling through that astral realm at the moment with your mini expansion and contraction, That's your mini expansion and contraction is your frequency vibration wave you're creating. Y'all get what I'm saying? So a bigger version, a bigger being's expansion and contraction to you will look like a frequency vibration wave. So when you tapping into different frequency vibration waves, you're really tapping into different beings, different concepts, different ideas in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional world. You know what I'm saying? So be careful what your state of being is in, because that's what you're actually manifesting, believe it or not. So say you are the type of person who, when you're always to yourself, you just constantly feel like people should give you shit, right? You feel like people owe you shit, right? Now you're in a world that's already created, so there's already frequency vibrations and waves against that, and beings against that, and wars against that. So you may get caught up in a conscious wave flux, just being in that state of being. But I just want to use that state of being for an example right now, right? Because you're still manifesting on impact. I don't care what you're doing. Now, say you're in a state of being where you just think people should give you shit. You know, you think you're owed something or something like that, right? Even if you're not. Now, that becomes matter, right? Because now you're in that state of being, right? That becomes matter. Now, I'm not talking about matter in the physical form, forms. Now, see, now I have to break this down, right? Because this is the art of manifesting. Now, you need to knowing the art of manifesting, you need to know how matter works. Now, matter is part of the conscious, part of the yang. You got frequency, vibration, then you got energy. Energy is what we create. So frequency, vibration, energy, spirit, soul, body. We create the body to go into. You got space, time, matter. You see what I'm saying? We create matter. You know what I'm saying? That comes last. So then you have unconscious, subconscious, conscious. We create that last. You know what I'm saying? Then you have the overall, the yin, then yang. We create yang. So this is what you need to understand. Matter is part of the third, 3D, what came last. That part. What we can see, what we can feel, the energy we can feel from non-physical to physical. We created all that. The daughters of men, theism, atheism, I don't care what you want to call that. We created all them kind of belief systems. Now, check this out. Right? Now, as far as the third aspect, understanding how to manifest, you need to understand matter. Now, before something becomes matter in the third dimension, and this is what I was speaking about even when we talk about magnetism and things of that nature. Magnetites get manifested in the third dimension. But when we look at how y'all try to look at magnetism in the third dimension, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, this is something that's manifested off attraction, but it's also manifested off of manifesting. Now, this is deal with matter. Now, before something becomes matter, it has to matter to you. And once it matter, it can climb on the ladder as far as the Kree, as far as because we know the consciousness comes second. So the physical, what comes from your moon is your solar plexus, and the solar plexus is the physical light. You know what I'm saying? So that's where your archons get to work, when you start to pay attention to something. But before you pay attention to something, before you utilize, that's your masculine energy. Before you utilize your masculine energy, you utilize your feminine, your receiving, your moon energy. So you receive first. So you experience first. You go towards what you resonate with first. Natural selection, your state of being first. Now, your state of being first, it has to matter to you. So once you move into an experience that it mattered for some strange reason, it's like your state of being. So once it mattered, you start to pay attention to what matters to you. So once you start to pay attention to what matters to you, your archons start to go and develop that. Your consciousness start to go and develop that. You give your currency. You give your millionaire spirit currency to that. You're paying because you already a billionaire in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. So you start to create what matters to you. Now, slowly but surely, it start to manifest into actual matter in the third dimension. Or it becomes third dimension. This is how you created the body for yourself. So once it mattered, it becomes matter. Now, once it becomes matter, the archons really could use that shit, and that shit really becomes a shape and form. And depending on how much you're paying attention to it, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, giving your currency, in the third dimension realm, it plays out as you giving light to it. And then the archons give light, and then the outer archons, aka the outer solar system, give light to it too. And the more light something is given, the more dense it is. And the more dense, the more wave, the more water it gets, the more heavier it becomes, and the more it can become a reality, and it will appear to be solid. So we're in a realm of reality right now where it's a bunch of shit you're around that did that. I'm explaining that process to you right now. You see what I'm saying? From a fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional aspect. So once something mattered to you, you start to pay attention to what mattered to you because you was in that state of being, then you manifest a person, place, or thing, or scenario, or a situation in your life that actually matter. So pay attention to everything that you matter. That matters to you. And you probably unaware of this thing. Unaware of it. So think about the state of beings that you are in, right? And now take this back to this example I was making, right? Say you a person, you just feel like people want to give you shit or something like that for some strange reason, right? And in this realm, that doesn't work, especially if you ain't shit. But for the most part, let's just say it matters, right? Now look, you're going to start to manifest that scenario. So in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be in a scenario, a circumstance, or dealing with a person, place, or thing that has the energy to give you something. Now, if you don't know that this is what you're doing, you're going to take advantage of this energy and get washed in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. Therefore, you're going to be in a bunch of situations that you don't really want to be in, and you don't know why you do certain things, and you don't know why certain things is happening. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind also. But for the most part, you're going to be in a scenario. So based upon what space and location you live in, say you in a state of being, you want somebody to hurt you, you're going to manifest that. Think about everything. Think about the state of beings that you are in, and that's the shit that you manifest. So the state of being is what actually matters to you, and then you subconsciously start paying attention to what matters to you because you don't watch Archangel Uriel. You see what I'm saying? So now that you understand this, you understand you're in a state of being, and once the state of being, you subconsciously be paying attention to that. You know what I'm saying? But now that you are aware, it doesn't have to be subconsciously now. Now you could be consciously aware of it. You could take that yin subconscious training mind that some scientist or somebody gave you. You could take that out of from in you and put that in a light. And now you could pay attention to it. Now it's in the yin realm. Now it's in the yang realm now. You took from what was in the yin realm and what beings that's in the yang realm have already known and try to take control over your dreams and your inner realm. You actually could take that out now and take it out into the yang realm and see it. Now you can see what it's doing before it do it now. Now you got power control over it. So whatever taking place yang-wise in the third dimension, you can see it yin-wise in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. You know what I'm saying? So you already in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension looking at this shit like, look at this bullshit. And look who's bringing this shit to me. Don't let me destroy this motherfucker too. You know what I'm saying? It goes hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm here like my soul group hard. So, you know what I'm saying? My soul group will be able to understand that, but I probably got off the handle a little bit. But let me break it back down for y'all. For the most part, you need to understand that what matters to you, sometimes y'all do that subconsciously. Well, all the time y'all do that subconsciously. So I'm trying to teach y'all to start doing that consciously, because a lot of things that matter to y'all was presented to y'all by some other intellectual beings that are aware of this kind of shit. And a lot of these motherfuckers are even the three-dimensional beings that's walking amongst here. A lot of the stores and shit that y'all into and things that y'all like to buy and all kind of shit, the shit that matters to you. Like having a house, having a car, like the way a family is structured. Whoever came up with the concept of the dress code of the tuxedo and all the energy signatures that come with men and women that wear tuxedos. So whoever was in that mind state and whatever beings came to the third dimension and then came into a body, because we're all fourth and fifth to sixth dimensional beings coming here, jumping into daughters of men. This is what this is. This is what the daughters of men is, motherfucker. This is what theism is. You know, this is what consciousness is. This is what you're developing. And you're developing more dense consciousness for yourself. But as far as motherfucking the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, you got to be aware of your motherfucking state of being. What state is your spirit in? Because that's what it is, astral traveling. It's just like here. Cities, states, countries, and your ass is just a blood cell living in them. You know what I'm saying? Now, what state do you live in? But the states and the locations here, in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, states and locations, the state of beings is awarenesses. Awarenesses, like street lights or street signs, city names, state names, country names, awarenesses. So what state of being are you in? You in an aggressive one, a happy one, prosperity one, you know what I'm saying? Favorable one, trend-setting one, lovable one, hating one, you know what I'm saying? Narcissistic one, you know what I'm saying? Hippie one, you know what I'm saying? Powerful one, you know what I'm saying? Sourceful one, you know what I'm saying? Reliable one, a rejective one. What kind of state? It's trillions of state of beings. See, and y'all get lost in the third dimension by these words, and then y'all use these words so freely. And y'all go to y'all jobs, y'all go to y'all places, y'all go to y'all deal with y'all people, places, and things, and y'all go out in the world and speak these things as if you really in these things, as if it's a joke. You know what I'm saying? I keep conversations limited. Once I see a person who talk and they're very three-dimensional, especially eating shit in the middle of talking and shit like that, you can't really do that. You know what I'm saying? So when you can't talk and listen at the same time. So you will listen to a person, they start saying things like, man, I had a fucked up day today. My day was fucked up, man, because shit, this, that, and that, man. Whoa, slow down. Slow down. Slow down. You know what I'm saying? Even people super excited coming, man, I had a happy, blissful day. I was so beautiful. Oh, slow down. What did you talk about was blissful and beautiful? They start talking about rims and shit like that. You're like, hold on. You know what I'm saying? Conversation gotta get cut short. Start cutting the motherfucker off and shit. The niggas start trying to overly talk again. But hold on, man. Cause look, this cost $1,500, man, and I had to go here. Then they couldn't even put them on right. So then I got a nigga talking to me like that was a good day. I'm like, hold on, nigga, what was beautiful and blissful about that, nigga? All I hear was you having to do a bunch of obstacles and laps and shit to be seen a certain way at the end of the day, and then it might not even been worth it. You ain't even had your own meaning and reasoning behind them goddamn rims. At least have your own meaning and reasoning behind it. Then you want to ask a nigga, oh, so, shit, you know it's about to turn winter, about to get winter, it's about to get fall, you about to have to take them shits off. You could have waited, motherfucker. I'm out this motherfucker on my flame bus, bitch, goddamn air,